So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. 90% of my garden was created using free plants. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you my 3 top tips for getting free plants for your garden and to garden on a budget. So my first tip for you today might seem kind of obvious. So it's beginning with seeds. So this is a really economical way because you can buy 1 packet of seeds and actually get a lot of plants out of that 1 packet. If you've ever gardened before, you may know, like, if you buy a packet of tomato seeds and all those little seeds grow into plants, you're going to have a lot of plants, and maybe you're going to have so many that you need to give them away. Well, I really recommend buying seeds first, and then you can try out different things and see what works in your garden, see what you like. It's really a great way to experiment with plants that you've never tried before to see how it works, and you haven't really lost a lot of money if it doesn't end up working for you or you don't really like that particular plant in your garden. I've used several different online nurseries to buy seeds from. I have a few favorites, but there also are places in person that you can buy seeds, such as obviously garden centers, but I also have found them at grocery stores and different home improvement centers as well. I will go to the online nurseries instead of just relying on home centers because I can find more unusual plants, or I can find more organic offerings, which I really like, which sometimes are harder to get if you get your seeds at someplace like Target, for instance. So there are other ways to get seeds besides buying a packet of seeds. A couple ways to do this is friends, family, neighbors. Maybe they have gardens, maybe they'd be willing to share some seeds with you. I also recommend finding out if you've got a local garden club in your area. You could become a part of that and maybe become part of a seed swap, which is really fun because you're building that community with people in your neighborhood as well. There are online garden clubs as well that do seed swaps and plant swaps, so you might want to check that out for your area and see what's available. So another way to get seeds that might seem a little unconventional is to actually get them in the wild, so to speak. Make sure that it's okay to do that, and also be careful not to destroy any habitat, for instance, or compromise that particular environment or plants the seeds are growing in. I recommend always asking if it's someone's personal property, whether it's okay to actually do that, because some people may not want you taking anything out of their gardens, even if it's by the street. So be sure to ask first. So my second tip that I think works really great, that I have implemented in my garden many times over the years, is propagation. So this basically relies on the idea that you are taking a plant that you may already have, or perhaps that someone else has given you, and that you create more plants from that existing plant. So if you're a beginning gardener, there's 2 methods that I do that I think are really accessible and pretty easy to do and actually give you a lot of great results and a good quantity of plants. First one that I'm going to recommend is division. So dividing plants is relatively easy. There's different ways to divide different kinds of plants. One kind of plant that works really well, obviously, are perennials. The kinds of perennials are endless that you can do this with. Just a few examples that I've done in my garden include hostas, peonies, catmint, sedums, coneflowers. I mean, it goes on and on. I have ornamental grasses that I also do this with. This year I actually created a whole new section of my garden that is still in progress. And I actually did this by dividing a lot of my existing perennials from other areas in my garden, and then I planted them out. In the next few years, I'll be able to edit those areas and either add in new plants or maybe even divide some of those plants again to put in another new area. So that's a really great and fun way to build your garden. So I'm going to have actually a free guide that has more of these tips and more details about all of these methods to get free plants. So all you have to do is comment the word free, and I will send you a free guide with all of those tips and some resources on how to implement some of these ways to get free plants. So making cuttings is a relatively easy form of propagation as well. The concept is basically where you take a piece of an existing plant and you make several cuttings of that piece, and then either, depending on the plant, you can root them in water or you can root them in a new pot and then grow them on throughout the season, especially if you're starting your cuttings in the spring, and then you can plant them towards the end of the season if they're ready to go with fully formed roots. Otherwise, if you have a system like a heated greenhouse or a place in your house that you can keep those cuttings over the winter, and then you can bring them out in the spring and plant them. So this is another great way to make many plants out of one plant. Okay, so my third and final tip for getting free plants does involve a little bit more work, but I think it's also kind of a fun way to get free plants, and that includes bartering. Except you're trading a skill or some sort of work to get plants. So for instance, what I did years ago, my family and I rented quite a bit. We lived in different apartments. One particular apartment complex that we lived in had landscape plantings. It was a little bit old and tired. And of course, I noticed this right away because I didn't have a dedicated garden of my own, and I still wanted to find a way to garden. So I made an offer with the people at the complex to say, hey, I've got design skills, and also I'd be willing to do a little work if you let me help you redo those gardens, redesign those gardens, and maybe help maintain those gardens a little bit. And of course, they thought that was a great idea, and I was doing it for pretty much nothing, so they weren't really going to turn it down. And in return, I was able to help select the kind of plants that they put in around their grounds, which was nice because then I could kind of choose the particular plants that I wanted by the area that I lived. And then eventually I was able to just take little bits of those plants through division, like we talked about before. And I even still have some of those plants today in my current garden many years later. So it was a really great deal all the way around. I made the complex happy because I was helping them out on the cheap, and I was happy because I was getting some plants that I really liked and I didn't have to pay anything for them. If you've got a friend or somebody needs help with something and they have a garden, consider asking, hey, can I help you out? And maybe I could have a little piece of that plant in return. And often I think people will return the favor and be really nice about it, so give it a chance. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to comment free below and I'll send you that free guide for all of these tips on how to get free plants, as well as other details about propagation and other resources that you can read about to get more free plants. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time.